A poor farm boy from Oklahoma gets told by his boss that he'll never make it in retail. Fast forward to today, and the company he built generates over $500 billion in revenue annually. This is the incredible true story of how Sam Walton created Walmart, the world's largest company by revenue. But it's also a tale of controversy, questionable tactics, and dark secrets that most people never hear about. Before we dive into this remarkable journey, let me blow your mind with some numbers. Walmart currently operates over 10,000 stores worldwide, employs more than 2 million people, and generates revenues exceeding $600 billion per year. But here's what's truly staggering. When Sam Walton started his first store, he had just $25,000 to his name. That's a wealth multiplication of over 24 million times. But the path to this empire wasn't paved with gold. It was built on relentless determination, controversial business practices, and some decisions that would make your stomach turn. Let me take you back to where it all began. March 28, 1918, in the small farming town of Kingfisher, Oklahoma. Sam Walton was born into poverty during one of America's most challenging periods. His father, Thomas, was a struggling farmer who couldn't make ends meet with the failing farm. The family was constantly on the move, searching for better opportunities, bouncing from state to state like tumbleweeds in the wind. From an incredibly young age, Sam understood the value of a dollar in ways most kids never would. At just 8 years old, he was already selling magazine subscriptions door to door, helping his mother with her small milk delivery business, and even raising rabbits and pigeons to sell. This wasn't some cute childhood entrepreneurship. This was survival. The family needed every penny they could scrape together. But here's where the story takes a dark turn that would shape Sam's entire worldview. When the Great Depression hit in 1929, Sam's father took a job with an insurance company that required him to repossess farms from families who couldn't pay their debts. Imagine the psychological impact on young Sam, watching his father foreclose on hundreds of family farms, many owned by friends and neighbors who had worked the same land for generations. These weren't faceless corporations losing their assets. These were hardworking families losing everything their ancestors had built. This experience planted a seed in Sam's mind that would grow into an obsession. Make money, and more importantly, never waste it. He watched families destroyed by financial ruin, and he swore it would never happen to him. This drive for financial security would later manifest in ways that critics would call ruthless cost-cutting and employee exploitation. During high school, Sam's entrepreneurial spirit continued to flourish. He started a newspaper delivery business that eventually employed several helpers and generated over $4,000 annually. A substantial sum for a teenager in the 1930s. But it wasn't just about the money. Sam was learning the fundamentals of business operations, employee management, and customer service that would later prove invaluable. When Sam enrolled at the University of Missouri in 1936, he was already more financially savvy than most adults. He worked multiple jobs to support himself, including waiting tables in exchange for meals and continuing to expand his newspaper delivery routes. By graduation, he had built a small business empire that was generating serious income for a college student. In 1940, fresh out of college, Sam landed his first real job in retail at JCPenney, earning $75 a week. But here's where the story gets interesting and reveals the first glimpse of the determination that would later build an empire. Sam was terrible at this job. Absolutely terrible. His bookkeeping was a disaster, his paperwork was consistently late, and his boss frequently threatened to fire him. In fact, his supervisor told him point blank that he had no future in retail and should find another career path. But Sam had something that couldn't be taught, an incredible gift for connecting with customers and closing sales. This natural salesmanship earned him extra commissions that kept him employed despite his other shortcomings. When World War II reached American shores in 1941, Sam saw an opportunity to serve his country and potentially escape his struggles at JCPenney. The military recognized Sam's leadership potential immediately, selecting him for the Intelligence Corps, where he quickly rose to the rank of captain. It was during his military service in Oklahoma that Sam met Helen Robson, the daughter of a wealthy lawyer and banker. This meeting would change everything. After a whirlwind courtship, they married on Valentine's Day in 1943. Now here's where Sam's story takes a crucial turn that many people don't know about. His marriage to Helen wasn't just about love, it was financially strategic. Helen's father was eager to help his new son-in-law succeed and provided Sam with a $20,000 loan to start his retail business. Combined with $5,000 of his own savings, Sam had $25,000 to launch his empire. But here's the first dark secret. Sam didn't start with an innovative new concept or a revolutionary business model. He bought a failing Ben Franklin variety store in Newport, Arkansas, a store that was losing money hand over fist. The reason he could afford it was precisely because it was failing so badly. To make matters worse, he agreed to pay rent equal to 5% of sales, which he later discovered was the highest rent rate anyone had ever paid for a variety store. Most people would have seen these as insurmountable obstacles. Sam saw them as opportunities to prove everyone wrong. He immediately began implementing strategies that would later become Walmart's foundation. But these tactics were controversial from the very beginning. Sam's first major move was to break the rules of his franchise agreement. Ben Franklin required franchisees to buy merchandise from their approved suppliers at predetermined prices. But Sam found a loophole in his contract and began sourcing cheaper products from unauthorized suppliers. He would drive hundreds of miles at night, often into remote areas of Tennessee and other states, to meet with obscure wholesalers who could offer him better prices. This wasn't just clever business strategy. It was the beginning of a pattern of pushing ethical boundaries to achieve lower costs. Sam would load his homemade trailer with whatever cheap merchandise he could find. Men's shirts, women's underwear, household goods, literally anything he thought might sell. The next day, these items would appear in his store at prices so low that customers couldn't believe it. The results were immediate and dramatic. In his first year of ownership, sales increased by 45%, reaching $105,000. The following year, sales jumped to $140,000. By his third year, Sam had increased sales by another 25%, reaching $175,000. But here's where the story takes its first major twist, and reveals how business success doesn't always protect you from devastating setbacks. When Sam signed his lease back in 1945, he made a crucial oversight that would cost him everything he had built. The lease contained no renewal clause, which was virtually unheard of in commercial real estate. After 5 years of building the most successful variety store in the entire region, working tirelessly to serve his community, and pouring his heart and soul into the business, Sam's landlord decided not to renew his lease. The reason? The landlord wanted to give the store to his own son instead. Sam described this as the lowest point of his life. He felt physically sick, devastated that after doing everything right, building the best store in the region, serving his community faithfully, and creating jobs, he was being kicked out of town through no fault of his own. By this time, Sam and Helen had 4 young children to support, making the situation even more desperate. But this setback revealed something crucial about Sam as character that would define the rest of his career. He never gave up, and he learned from every mistake. Determined to start over but do it right this time, Sam began searching for a new location. He found a small store opportunity in Bentonville, Arkansas, a tiny community that most business people would have overlooked. This time, Sam insisted on a 99-year lease. No one would ever be able to kick him out again. He opened Walton's Five and Dime in the summer of 1950, and the local community was skeptical, to put it mildly. People whispered among themselves, giving Sam maybe 60 to 90 days before he failed and left town. They couldn't have been more wrong. Sam immediately implemented the strategies he had learned at his previous store, but now he had the security of knowing he couldn't be evicted. He kept prices lower than anyone else in town, provided better customer service, and introduced innovations that other stores weren't willing to try. One of Sam's most significant innovations was implementing self-service shopping, a concept that seems obvious today but was revolutionary in the 1950s. Instead of having store clerks fetch items for customers, Sam allowed customers to walk through the store, select their own products, and pay at the front. This reduced labor costs, which allowed him to keep prices even lower. The results were extraordinary. Sam tripled his income in less than a year. With more money flowing in, he had the resources to expand, and expand he did. Throughout the 1950s, Sam opened store after store, always using the same formula: find underserved communities, offer the lowest prices possible, and provide excellent customer service. By the end of the 1950s, Sam owned 15 stores and had established himself as a major player in the Arkansas retail market. But he still felt he wasn't maximizing his potential profits for the effort he was putting in. This dissatisfaction led him to develop a new strategy that would change everything, not just for him, but for the entire retail industry. Sam's revolutionary idea was to build large discount stores in small towns, places where major retailers feared to tread. Most discount chains focused on cities with populations of 50,000 or more. Some might go as low as 10,000 residents, but Sam saw opportunity in towns with fewer than 5,000 people. This strategy seemed insane to industry experts. How could you generate enough sales volume in such small markets? But Sam understood something his competitors did not. Rural customers were desperate for the convenience and low prices that discount stores offered in cities. They were tired of driving hours to find decent prices on basic goods. The concept required massive upfront investment and operated on razor-thin profit margins, which meant Sam needed substantial capital. He approached the Butler brothers, who owned the Ben Franklin franchise system, but they rejected his proposal. They couldn't see the logic in operating on such low margins with such high initial costs. So Sam took the biggest gamble of his life. He mortgaged his family's home, borrowed money from every bank and friend willing to lend to him, and opened the first Walmart store in Rogers, Arkansas in 1962. The name itself was strategic. Walmart was simple, memorable, and suggested value and accessibility to ordinary working families. Customers were thrilled that they no longer had to drive to distant cities for discount prices. Word spread quickly through these small communities, and people flocked to Walmart in droves. Sales rose tremendously, but Sam knew this was just the beginning. Throughout the 1960s, Sam continued learning from competitors, often through methods that would be considered corporate espionage today. He would visit the headquarters of major rivals like Kmart and Sears, sometimes posing as a potential partner or supplier, and gather intelligence about their merchandising strategies, distribution methods, and operational secrets. These companies initially saw Walmart as too small and insignificant to be a threat, so they openly shared proprietary information with Sam, never imagining he would later use this knowledge to compete against them. Sam would scribble notes on small notepads, memorizing every detail he could about their operations. By 1971, Sam had opened 6 new Walmart stores and had attracted 78 private investors. But here's a dark secret that those investors didn't know. Sam was drowning in debt. We're talking several $1 million in obligations spread across practically every bank in Arkansas and southern Missouri. Sam had always viewed debt as a necessary tool for expansion, but now he was borrowing from one bank to pay another, a dangerous game that could have destroyed everything he had built. The stress was enormous. If his private investors discovered the true extent of Walmart's financial troubles and decided to pull out, it would have been the end of the company. But Sam was convinced his business model was sound. He just needed more capital. The solution came when he decided to take Walmart public on the stock market in 1972. This was a turning point that transformed Walmart from a scrappy underdog into what critics would later call a cutthroat monopoly. The public offering generated about $5 million and allowed Sam and his family to retain 61% ownership of the company. More importantly, it gave Sam the resources to pay off his debts and fund the aggressive expansion that would make Walmart a household name. With the weight of debt lifted from his shoulders, Sam returned to what he did best, finding ways to beat the competition. He kept stores open longer than competitors, replaced expensive wooden shelves with cheaper metal ones, and hung lights from the ceiling with inexpensive wire instead of costly fixtures. The aesthetics didn't matter to customers who were primarily focused on low prices, but here's where Walmart's success story starts to reveal its darker side. Sam's expansion strategy was deliberately designed to drive competitors out of business, what economists call predatory pricing. Walmart would enter a small rural market where local stores had been serving the community for years, sometimes decades. Because of Walmart's massive purchasing power, they could buy products directly from manufacturers at prices significantly lower than what small local stores paid to wholesalers. This meant that even if local competitors sold their products at cost, making zero profit, they still couldn't match Walmart's prices. The result was predictable and devastating for small business owners. Once Walmart established itself in a community, local competitors would gradually lose customers, struggle to pay their bills, and eventually close their doors. Sam basically admitted to this strategy, but he didn't see it as predatory. To him, this was simply capitalism at work, and he was ultimately providing lower prices to consumers. The human cost of this strategy was significant. Family businesses that had operated for generations were forced to close. Local entrepreneurs who had invested their life savings into their stores watched their dreams evaporate. Entire downtown business districts and small towns began to empty out as Walmart became the dominant retail destination. But from a pure business perspective, the strategy was incredibly effective. By 1980, Walmart had 276 stores. From that point forward, they were opening approximately 100 new stores per year. The company was becoming an unstoppable retail juggernaut. Sam attributed Walmart's rapid growth not just to low prices, but to the dedication of his employees, though his employment practices would later become highly controversial. He made store managers partners in the business through stock options and cash bonuses, giving them financial incentives to maximize store performance. Sam also invested heavily in logistics and distribution systems that gave Walmart significant competitive advantages. While competitors outsourced these functions, Sam built Walmart's own warehousing and transportation network. This required enormous upfront investment, but it eliminated bottlenecks and allowed for more efficient operations. Another innovation was Sam's decision to buy products directly from manufacturers rather than through wholesalers, cutting out middlemen and reducing costs even further. As Walmart grew larger, Sam could negotiate better deals by purchasing in massive quantities. In 1983, Sam launched Sam's Club, a wholesale membership store aimed at small business owners and consumers who wanted to buy in bulk. Once again, Sam had identified an underserved market and created a successful business model to serve it. By 1990, Walmart had over 1,000 stores and 150,000 employees, making it the largest retailer in the United States. The company was generating more revenue than any other retailer in the country. But this success came with a price that extended far beyond financial metrics. Despite Walmart's incredible growth and profitability, the company was struggling to keep up with its own expansion. New stores often looked run down and poorly stocked because the distribution system could not keep pace with the rapid growth. The company was opening stores faster than it could properly support them. More troubling were the mounting criticisms about Walmart's impact on local communities and its treatment of employees. The Walmart effect became a widely recognized phenomenon, describing how the arrival of a Walmart store would devastate local businesses and transform entire communities. Sam Walton died on April 5, 1992, at the age of 74. At the time of his death, Walmart had annual revenues exceeding $104 billion, but the company he built was about to face its most controversial period. After Sam's death, Walmart's expansion accelerated even further, but so did the controversies. The company became the world's largest private employer with over 1.4 million employees by 1999, but it also became a lightning rod for criticism about labor practices. Throughout the 2000s, Walmart faced numerous lawsuits alleging wage theft, unpaid overtime, and systematic mistreatment of workers. Employees claimed they were forced to work off the clock, had their hours manipulated to avoid overtime pay, and were subjected to anti-union intimidation tactics. One particularly damaging case involved employees in Iowa who accused Walmart management of pressuring them to work overtime without compensation. The company allegedly gave workers impossible tasks with unrealistic deadlines, then pressured them to complete the work without logging the extra hours. Walmart paid $1 million to settle this case. The documentary Walmart: The High Cost of Low Price exposed even more troubling practices, including allegations that Walmart deliberately understaffed stores to force remaining employees to pick up extra work without additional compensation. Some managers were reportedly taught how to manipulate time records to avoid paying overtime rates to minimum wage workers who desperately needed that extra income. But the controversies extended far beyond domestic labor issues. When investigators examined Walmart's international supply chain, they discovered working conditions that shocked even hardened critics. At one supplier factory in China, employees were earning just 3 cents per hour while working 14-hour shifts 7 days a week. Walmart's response to these revelations was often to distance themselves from supplier practices while continuing to source products from the cheapest possible manufacturers. The company maintained that they could not be held responsible for conditions at factories they didn't directly own, even though their pricing demands made such conditions virtually inevitable. The most explosive scandal broke in 2005 when a whistleblower revealed that Walmart's Mexican operations had engaged in systematic bribery of government officials. Internal documents showed that Walmart de Mexico had paid bribes totaling more than $24 million to accelerate store construction and gain competitive advantages. These weren't small, incidental payments. This was large-scale institutional corruption designed to dominate the Mexican retail market. The paper trail showed that top executives knew about the bribes, but worked to conceal them from Walmart's United States headquarters. When the New York Times exposed this scandal in 2012, it revealed that Walmart executives and lawyers had worked tirelessly to suppress the investigation and prevent public disclosure of the bribery scheme. The company had essentially covered up evidence of massive corruption for years. Despite all these controversies, scandals, and ethical questions, Walmart continued to grow into the global retail giant we know today. The company now operates over 10,500 stores worldwide and generates annual revenues exceeding $600 billion. From a purely financial perspective, Walmart represents one of the most successful business stories in human history. Sam Walton's transformation from a poor farm boy with $25,000 into the founder of the world's largest company by revenue is genuinely remarkable. But the Walmart story also raises profound questions about the cost of success. How do we balance the benefits of lower consumer prices against the destruction of local businesses? How do we weigh corporate profits against worker rights and fair wages? How do we evaluate a business model that depends on keeping labor costs as low as possible while generating enormous wealth for shareholders? These questions don't have easy answers, but they're essential to understanding the full complexity of the Walmart story. Sam Walton didn't set out to become a controversial figure. He genuinely believed he was providing value to customers and creating opportunities for employees. But the system he created has had far-reaching consequences that extend far beyond retail. Today, Walmart employs over 2.3 million people worldwide, making it not just the largest retailer, but the largest private employer on Earth. The company's annual revenue of over $600 billion exceeds the gross domestic product of many countries. To put this in perspective, remember that Sam started with $25,000 in 1945. In today's dollars, that would be equivalent to about $370,000. Walmart's current annual revenue represents a multiplication of that initial investment by approximately 1.6 million times. But perhaps the most important part of Sam Walton's story is not the incredible wealth creation, or even the controversies surrounding the company's practices. It's the demonstration of how relentless determination, willingness to challenge conventional wisdom, and obsessive focus on customer value can build something that transforms entire industries. Sam's core insight: That customers would reward businesses that offered consistently low prices seems obvious in retrospect, but implementing that insight required revolutionary changes in how retail businesses operated. It required new approaches to sourcing, logistics, employee management, and expansion strategy. The dark secrets and controversial practices that emerged over the decades don't diminish the business achievement, but they do complicate the legacy. They remind us that business success often comes with costs that extend beyond the companies themselves to employees, competitors, and entire communities. Whether you view Walmart as an example of capitalism at its best or at its worst probably depends on your perspective and priorities. What's undeniable is that Sam Walton created something unprecedented in business history, a company that fundamentally changed how millions of people shop, work, and live. The boy who was told he had no future in retail built the largest retailer in world history. The man who started with a failing store in a small Arkansas town created a global empire that touches virtually every aspect of modern commerce. That transformation, regardless of how you evaluate its broader impact, represents one of the most extraordinary entrepreneurial achievements ever recorded. Today, as we grapple with questions about corporate responsibility, worker rights, and the role of business in society, the Walmart story provides a complex case study in the costs and benefits of unrestricted business growth. Sam Walton's legacy continues to shape debates about capitalism, globalization, and the future of work, from $25,000 to $600 billion in annual revenue, from one failing store to over 10,000 locations worldwide. From a poor farm boy who couldn't keep his books straight to the founder of the world's most successful retail empire. That's the incredible, complicated, and ultimately human story of how Walmart conquered the world. This is just one piece of the bigger picture. Subscribe if you want to understand the full context and how to better protect yourself in uncertain times. And the video on screen takes this story one step further.